Welcome back, and this is the lesson you've all been waiting for, where we're going to make something happen on screen. We're going to take our car that we're creating, that div that we've just created, and we're going to move it around on the screen. So there's a few things that we need to add and prepare for. Adding it in as a position absolute. So of course with CSS, position absolute gives us the ability to provide left top coordinates for the positioning of an element. We can also position it from bottom, so do that. And for now, we're going to set bottom to be 100 pixels. And we'll also position our left position. So our left position by default will be 200 pixels. I'm also going to take the opportunity to set a width of this particular element. So setting the width of the element to be, and setting the height of the element to be 150 pixels. Also background color, so whilst I'm adding in content here, so we'll have our little blue car, and I think I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller. And now next, what we want to do is add that class into the element that we just created. So where we've got our car that we created in the last lesson, this is a car object of the div that we're creating dynamically. We're going to use set attribute. And the attribute that we're setting is a class. So you can do this if you don't have any classes already added to that element. You can just set a default class, and the class that I'm going to be setting is car, the one that we just created. So let's try that out. So there's our blue dot or blue square, and we want to ultimately now move that around the page. So we see that that's a fairly long and big car. I'm going to make this smaller because I do have the screen zoomed in. So I can zoom out a little bit on the screen so that it's a little bit more manageable. And while that is a long car, so we don't want to make it a limo or anything like that. So I'm going to shorten that a little bit. There's our car, and we want to move this element around depending on what keys are being pressed. And we already have the play game function operating that we set up in the earlier lesson. So now it's a matter of determining what key is pressed and updating that element position. So selecting our element, we've got our request animation, so we can keep that at the end. And now we need to apply some conditions. And within our conditions, we're going to check to see the value of keys. So using that key object, we've got several objects there. So we've got a key up. So selecting the element using the document object, query selector, and we're selecting the element with a class of car. So that's the one that we just created. So now that we have it, so we need to also add in to our X and Y coordinates. So taking the player object, we're going to have a value for Y. We're going to increment this value with, for now, let's do a value of 5. And we can also set a value here. We can set a speed value there. And then we can use that speed in order to control how fast their element is moving. And as we're building it out, we're going to grab the X and Y coordinates of this particular object. So arrow down is going to decrease that. Arrow left is going to update the player position, so decreasing the X coordinates. Arrow right is going to increase the X coordinates. So we've got a variable that we're tracking in the background that's going to be player X and player Y. And I'll show you how to add that as well into our object. And so as we're generating the car, we can take our player X value and set it by calculating where the car object is and getting its offset position. So we can get its offset left position. And we need to do that after. And then player Y value is going to be car, and we're going to use offset top position. And we'll console log out the value of player so that we can see what the value here is. So when we start the game, preset some values. And you can see that all the way up here that we're setting the value of X to 200 and Y to 280. And this is actually going to correspond with the positioning of this particular element. Now that we know which key is being pressed, we can adjust the position of that particular element. So now it's a matter of taking the car and updating that element style, updating its left position to be equal to player X plus, so that those are always matching. And we'll take also player style and top position and equal that to player Y plus pix. And you can also double quote those as well. So let's try that out. So now when I press my arrows up and down, and actually down is moving it up. So we need to adjust that up and down. So that was a little bit of an adjustment there. So now whenever I press, and I can move up arrow, down arrow, left, right, I can also move them together at the same time and have multiple combinations of movements. So this is how you can create an element that moves around on the page depending on what arrows are being pressed. So coming up next, we need to extend on the gameplay. So go ahead and add this into your project. Try it out for yourself, and it's a matter of tracking those positions, and then we can update them over here. And if we need to make some additional updates to these values, that's why I kept them separate, because we could have as well tracked the current position of car, but I usually find doing it this way is a little bit more easier, and it's a little bit more clear as to what's happening and easier to read. So that's why I introduced that second variable under player, where we're setting that value to wherever that particular element is located off the offset left and offset top. And then I'm introducing that positioning so that both of those match. And we're updating the player X and player Y position instead of the car position directly. So go ahead and add this into your project.